For centuries, women's health has been incomplete. Northwell is filling in the missing pieces. That's why more women choose us than any other health system in New York. Northwell, raise health.
Today I'm joined by talented musician and actress Fọlákẹ. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
And you're speaking with us from Nigeria.
Yes, I'm speaking with you from Lagos, Nigeria.
Beautiful area. It takes a lot to sit down and tell your story about your personal health journey, especially with endometriosis. As we know, there's been more of a light shined on it, but still there's a lot of work to do in order to illuminate the topic. So thank you for being here. I want to first start with, when did you know something was wrong with your body?
When I woke up in London on my 13th birthday, I believe and I went to the bathroom because I thought I had a tummy ache, and I saw that my period had started for the first time, and I was in a lot of pain. And we were traveling back to Nigeria on that day, and so I think I expressed it to my mom and my siblings, who were all traveling together, but I didn't really understand what was going on. Everyone was really busy. My mother was also a caregiver, so she was distracted with those duties as well during the trip also. And I remember a few times when we were at the airport running to the bathroom at Heathrow and throwing up on the floor, but no one saw it. I was a very self-sufficient child. By this time, I think I'd been in boarding school by myself for about 3 years already. So I was trying to figure it out for myself. And that's when I realized that something was off, but I wasn't quite sure because I was also being told that, the period came with a lot of pain, and it was just your allotment in life as a woman. And so there was just a sort of like dissonance about what was going on and the information that I was receiving.
That's a lot for a young person to navigate and to try to process. At what point did you feel comfortable to speak with someone about what was going on with you?
I think it was, I don't remember because it's so long ago now, but I think during that cycle, or either maybe the next one, someone started to believe because I was visibly in a lot of pain and I was throwing up. And back then, it started a few days before the cycle actually started. The pain did. And after a while, I don't think you could deny, if you spent enough time with me, there was no denying that my body was going through so much. I was immobile because any sort of movement amplified the pain, even sound, vibration amplified. So I had to be in like a noiseless space with no movement. And that was when I would feel the least amount of pain, still knowing that the amount of pain I felt was astronomical. Is that an understatement? Shit. Everything was a roadblock until I met my OBGYN around 2018. So we're talking about 1996 to 2018. Everything was a roadblock until I met her after breaking down when a doctor just pulled out my pain meds with no notice. Pain meds that didn't even work that well, to be honest. They worked the best of all the things I tried in the last 20 years, but it was a hassle, and it was even more traumatic trying to convince the people I was going in for a prescription that I needed it. So yes, I hit so many roadblocks. I hit roadblocks with the superstition that surrounded menstrual pain. I hit roadblocks with terrible pain management in Nigeria, and great pain management in America, but having to deal with physicians who thought I was lying or I was a drug addict without bothering to do any investigation of their own. I hit roadblocks with just learning, and perhaps this might be the most damaging of it all, learning how to contain the pain and still function. I'm an actress and a performer, and you don't say no to gigs. And once you're committed to a show, you show up to do the show. That's my discipline. And my craft started in stage, in musical theater. So there were times I was in the back throwing up and then running out on stage and pretending. And that went on up until my show, Bob Hatsa Bishama. So those were just some of the roadblocks. Those were just some of the roadblocks.
Those are not, like we said, like that's an understatement to even call it a roadblock. I mean, your quality of life was profoundly diminished.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what people don't understand either is this, sometimes, especially as an endo patient myself, I go into a doctor's appointment sometimes feeling like I'm going into a trial, and I have to determine.
Sorry, you broke up there. You said feeling like.
Okay, sorry again. What you mentioned when we say roadblocks, your life was profoundly impacted by endometriosis across the board, from professionally to even mentally. And I know as an endo patient myself, there are times where I go into a doctor's office and I'm already sure, as soon as there's like a 30-second conversation, that I'm going to have to be my own personal defendant, that I'm going to have to almost plead my case to a doctor for them to believe me. Even with a endo diagnosis, it still gets a response from certain doctors like, well, did you try a little bit of Tylenol and a heating pad? That should do the trick. Or did you alternate between ibuprofen? And I think the frustration is that many endo patients are made to feel like it's in their heads. Mm-hmm. And there are times where I would love to lend out my body when I'm in those kinds of flares and say, try this body on for a minute. Mm-hmm. And just maybe you would jump really fast into figuring out how to alleviate this.
Yeah.
So every time I hear a story like yours, it's infuriating because, like you said, your pain started in 1996. You didn't get help for a decade plus. So once you had that conversation with the first OBGYN who had an inkling, that something was wrong with you, where did that go?
Oh, it was amazing. I felt so much relief just meeting someone. So I'll give you a story about what led up to that. I'd been going through this toxic relationship with a doctor who every month I had to convince that I needed the prescription. And finally, I got to a space with her where I was like, instead of me going through this all the time, can you just post-date my prescription for like 6 months in a row? And she revealed to me that she was monitoring it. So I guess there's a way to monitor it. She's like, okay, I see you're not taking it elsewhere. I'm like, no, I'm not. In fact, I don't want to get addicted to this. So I'm making sure that I always underdose and then supplement it with Advil. And if it's too bad, then I increase my dosage. And the thing about the med is that it made me nauseous as well. It was just terrible. It was terrible. It made me nauseous as well. And I had to go through this whole rigmarole pleading for it every month. And so I finally got to a space where she would post-date my prescription. So at least for 4 to 6 months, I was at ease, knowing that I could manage my cycle semi-tolerably for the last 3 to 5, 6 days. But the first 2 days, I still had to deal with the pain because nothing worked. So one day I call after the script is over and I'm like, hey, can I speak to the doctor? I just want to refill. And the doctor was nowhere to be found, or she had been replaced by another doctor. And I'm like, okay, here we go again. I'm like, please, may I speak with this doctor? Yeah, she can't talk to you. She said she's not filling your prescription. And I'm like, okay, can I please speak with her? And finally, I'm able to get her on the phone, and I'm explaining everything. And she nonchalantly and very aggressively tells me this is not the cure for endometriosis. I don't know if by then we had figured out it was endometriosis. I think we still thought it was adenomyosis. And she's like, this is not an effective thing. You have to get surgery. I'm not feeling it. I'm like, okay, fine. I have to get surgery. What can I do up until when I find the doctor to help me with my surgery? Do you have any advice to help me with my surgery? No, we don't do that. I have no advice. Maybe try birth control, blah, 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 blah. I hung up the phone and I break down. I was in my car in Inglewood. I'll never forget it. I was parked right off of Manchester and La Brea. And I was parked in my car and I just bawled out crying because I knew the pain that awaited. And I called my friend, told her about what I experienced. She had seen me in the pain. It was like always my advocates were friends who had seen me experience it. So even when I was in New York and I didn't have a diagnosis yet, and I went to this free psych clinic, Al Hirschfield, I saw the lady doctor there with no compassion at all. No compassion at all. The first time I saw her, she sent me away with a script that was the equivalent of Tylenol. And so the first day I had the meds and I was going to work on set of SVU, I was so excited. I was like, yay, I'm going to get through this, no pain. End up at the back of my trailer throwing up. So that's when then I had my friend go with me because my friend was equally mortified and demanded that the doctor pull out her book and find something that was better and demanded that she go send me out for a test. For a test. That's how I finally figured out I had something wrong and it was adenomyosis. But that was back in 2010. So now here we are. I'm in the car crying. I called my friend, tell everything that happened. And she's like, well, let's find a new doctor for you. And we go on ZocDoc and we make an appointment for like the next day. When we get there, we figure out that there was something wrong with the appointment time. So we sit down in this restaurant in Inglewood and we're trying to figure out a strategy how we're going to move forward. And she's like, well, why don't you try finding a woman of color doctor? And let's see who can find the earliest appointment with. And that's how I found Dr. Hafsack. And I went to her the following day. It was absolute compassion. I had never felt that. My whole being felt at ease. I should say that when I was in Nigeria, I had compassion. I didn't have accuracy in information, but I had compassion there. After leaving Nigeria and I was in America, I was hit with suspicion and all that until Dr. Hafsack. And she was like, I have a sister who's dealt with the same thing. I have a doctor who's amazing at this, and we're going to book you an appointment. She held my hand through all of it. Like, even now, as I'm thinking about it, I feel peace. And so this was about 2018. We went to the doctor. I explained what I was experiencing. His name is Dr. Bruce Lee. And I don't know if they all want to be referred to, so perhaps edit out their name. I went to go sit with him. I explained my symptoms and he said, this doesn't sound like adenomyosis. This sounds like endometriosis. And he's like, yeah, I have experience with it. Let's set up your surgery and everything. We had a surgery. And afterwards, I was excited to never be in pain again. Only for him to say, hey, this unfortunately exceeds my expertise. You need a specialist. I was able to get some stuff out, but I didn't want to mess anything up. So here we are. Yeah. And then eventually, I think about a year after that, I met my publicist to introduce me to Dr. Seshkin. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm on my first day of my period right now. Yeah, and I'm here. Thank you. I would have canceled otherwise. All right. It was quite extensive. We thought it was going to be a 2-hour surgery. It ended up being 6 hours. I remember when the doc came in to post-op, and I was in the room with my friend, Marcel, one of my best friends, and he came in with a huge smile, and he was like, I had to cancel all my appointments. I was like, oh shit, sorry, doc. He's like, it was 6 hours. But it was great. It was so good to see him. He told me everything that happened. He told me what to look forward to. I remember feeling so great and so excited. I don't think I even stayed in the hospital more than 24 hours after that. And I was ready to take on the world. And it's been amazing since then. You know, Dr. Sashkin and I had a moment back in his office post-op, and he started tearing up as he started telling me what he found. And he was apologetic. He said, you probably told people your pain was a 10 out of 10. And they were like, okay, maybe close. But he said it was like 100 out of 10. My pelvis had been shifted out of place. So he had to replace it. As on top of all the numerous things that he had to work on. So I didn't feel anger, although I feel like I would have been well within my right too. But it's like, who am I arguing with? It's like so many people over the years. I can barely even remember your name. I guess, what do I feel about it? I feel this question, universe. What are you trying to unfold in my life? What were these lessons for? I tell you, the strength dealing with endometriosis, it required the most strength of anything else that I've dealt with in all my life. Like I said, at the age of 10, I've been in boarding school. A year after I graduated from secondary school, I was in America by myself, fending for myself, dealing with this pain as well, figuring out a new system as a woman, as an immigrant woman, as a Black immigrant woman in America, without much of a family. And I lost both of my parents by the time I was 24. And still nothing has been worse than endometriosis. Nothing.
Yeah. No, it is an evil disease. It is. And every person I talk to with endo, including myself, we have such similar stories.
Mm-hmm.
And there are doctors like we know, like Dr. Sechkin, that exist, but they're the rarity.
Yeah.
And now that you have this knowledge and understanding of the disease, how are you using your platform and your voice to help ensure that women and those born with uteruses are listened to when they have symptoms that are similar or reflective of what could be endo?
Well, showing up for everything that the Endometriosis Foundation asks of me is the biggest one, because I'm living testament. I'm living testament that you guys actually know what you're doing. I've also opened my time up to anyone who's looking to do any kind of research in the field and enlightenment about what the experience is. Also dealing with endometriosis sent me on this whole naturopathic journey. And I feel like there are a lot of other things I haven't uncovered about my health that was as a result of endometriosis or whatever triggered the endometriosis. I've heard so many varied stories about what helps to kind of eradicate it or stop you from getting it in the first place, especially a lot of things surrounding nutrition. So even now, as I'm here, I'm speaking to my friends to their ears fill off about nutrition and how to just care for themselves and be cognizant of how environmental toxins and food that we put in our mouth affects our health. They're ready for me to shut up, but to whoever will listen, I'm willing to speak. Also, having practiced some other modalities within the holistic and wellness field, I can say that cupping, acupuncture, were two of the things that I've also noticed have been useful. I'll tell you a funny story about being on set. Can you hear that? Okay, good. I'll tell you a funny story about being on set. I remember when my PR, who is now used to, when she's now used to me saying, well, back then, she was used to me saying, oh, when she called me with an opportunity, let me check my calendar to make sure I won't be on my period before I confirmed the yes. And she called me to tell me that I was going to the Grammys for the first time. It was in Vegas. I think it was 2021. And I got the news when I was in the hair and makeup room. I'm so excited. And I'm telling everyone in hair and makeup, I'm like, guys, I'm going to the Grammys. And then I look at my calendar, I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm not going to be able to go. And then some of the makeup ladies, Dee was like, why? I'm like, because I want to get my period. And she's like, when is your period coming? Like, she goes into mama bear mode. She's like, when's your period coming? And I tell her it's supposed to come in like a week or something. And she's like, all right, can I cup you? I'm like, what? She's like, I'm going to teach you how to make it come early. And she locks, like, we all locked the room. We locked the room of the makeup room. We locked the doors of the makeup room, and they lay me on the table. And I think we have pictures of this. And she gets some glass cups from Crafty, and she cups me. And then about a day later, I get my period. I go through all the pain, and then I get to go to the Grammys. Yeah. So everything I've learned, I'm willing to teach, or everything that helped me, all the experiments I've been through this last 2 decades. Those are some of the ways I'm also giving back. Cupping helps, acupuncture helps. Yeah, I've heard that diet and monitoring something about estrogen levels also help. Yeah.
Yeah, because endo is definitely an inflammatory disease.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to figure out what the triggers are because everybody's different. I mean, there's some common ones, but I know for myself that if I don't eat a certain way, and I love like salt and chips and all the things that we're not supposed to have, and I will feel it. No, I will definitely feel the impacts of it later. For those watching right now who are feeling scared, that we're sitting in the position you once were with doctors who are not showing sympathy, empathy, what do you have in terms of advice for them?
I hit up the Endometriosis Foundation stat. Get all your loved ones to donate. Hit up the insurance companies because it's a bit ridiculous that they're not covering it. It's ridiculous. I had to pay out of pocket for that. I still haven't been reimbursed. I didn't have a single dollar towards this thing that had been such a detriment to my life. And I'm still paying for health insurance. Hit up Dr. Sechkin and his team, empower them so that they can also teach other physicians on how to care for folks who have endometriosis. Spread the word. The foundation knows what it's doing. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I'm so glad that you're on the other side of this and you're able to not look at a calendar in order to plan your life, that you can just be in the moment and live it.
Now it's my app that reminds me, hey, don't forget to log your period. I'm like, oh, you know that.
It's a good way to live. It's a free way to live.
It is. It is. And the first time, yeah, I feel like, so I was about 38 when I finally had the surgery, Dr. Sechkin, 38. I feel like I have so much of life to catch up on.
Yeah. Well, good chapters are ahead for you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at Blossom Ball and hearing you speak.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for being our Blossom Award honoree.
Thank you.
For centuries, women's health has been incomplete. Northwell is filling in the missing pieces. That's why more women choose us than any other health system in New York. Northwell, raise health.